Hello everybody and welcome to my character guide for Scarlet in 20 minutes till dawn. I'm Icon and in this video I'm going to wrap up the character. I'm going to show you one build that worked out really well at winning the game, and I'm going to talk about tips and tricks towards the drafting, and at the end of the video I'm also going to talk about runes in general. So this run we're going to run with the flame cannon. A perfectly valid choice for this character would be the dual SMGs. I might even think that they could be even stronger and easier to handle, but I love the flame cannon on a flame girl, so let's get started with that. I want to talk closer about runes in the end. I just want to pinpoint here. Blessing is one thing that I picked up early on. Gives you a free holy shield. Can't tell you how useful that is on a character that has only 2 HP. Also saves you a level up, because you don't need to skill that up during a level up. Okay, let's get started. We're going to show you how this all works, and we're going to get down to, well, whatever. Let's stay at darkness 2. It'll work out just fine. Okay, so like I mentioned early on, Scarlet is very squishy. She only has 2 hit points, and every third shot results in this neat little flame wave. This is pretty cool because the flame wave is a projectile with absolute pierce, and therefore you can really use it to mow down larger amounts of enemies quite easily. There we go. The flame cannon's bullets are a joke though. They really don't deal any damage on their own, but they have one extremely beneficial property. They set everybody on fire instantaneously. While this is not so much of a crazy strong trait with that flame wave she shoots on every third shot, but the fact that I can bring up enemies on fire that easily is massive. It's just massive. You'll see them alongside of the run. So, upgrade-wise, we want a couple of things. Power Shot is the thing that appeals me here the most, because Power Shot transforms into Splinter. Splinter is a skill, I can only say, the faster you get it, the better. Enemies explode into 3 bullets. That sounds like not much, but bullets means the projectiles that spawn out of the enemy behave just like the stuff that your gun shoots. And, you know, every time an enemy gets hit by a flame projectile, the flaming damage is increasing, so you can stack that up. Basically, with this, you amp up your killing power by a lot. Big Shot is not that interesting, but not bad at all, because it has bullet size, but all the other stats are not preferable. You can't skip that. Leave that open until the bitter end. You don't really need that. Here now we have in store the Pyromaniac or the Frostmage. Since this is a full-on elemental build, we will pick up all 3 things: Frostmage, Pyromaniac, and Lightning Mage. I'll pick up the Frostmage first, because the Pyromaniac base skill only gives you another chance to inflict burn. Pretty cool, because it adds up, you know. But the Frostmage's freeze is so interesting for me because of the Frostbite. This is a very, very vital skill. I'm going to talk about that once we can pick it up. So now we have a higher freeze chance. I have rune-wise a sort of a freeze chance on my bullets naturally, but really not much. But like I said, runes we're going to discuss at the end of this. So there we go. One big downside of Scarlet's build there is that everything is just dying so frickin' slowly. At this point, you really notice I have to set them on fire, and it takes a while until they die. Other characters and other builds don't have that much of an issue with that. But, you know, everything has to have a downside. But this downside can be pretty niftily mitigated with Frostbite. You see, every time an enemy is inflicted with freeze, they lose 25% of their max HP. That means freeze them 4 times and they're dead. This is extremely good because our weapon just deals such low amounts of base damage. This makes now freeze a very, very lethal thing. And remember those splinters that we're going to add up later? Every splinter behaves like a regular bullet. That means every splinter can freeze the enemy, therefore deal 25% of their max HP. You see where this gets? This is getting really, really deadly. That's what it does. So, we're going to slide around here a bit. With this character, I always try to set them on fire a bit, and get looting afterwards. So you have to really find your own pacing for that. So, what can we pick up here? I am personally a huge fan of haste, and magnetism is something we will pick up at some point, but as late as possible. Try to delay that as much as possible, because with this character you're relying on boosting up your DPS as quick as possible, because your starting DPS is crap. You really need to do something about that. Haste is so good because move speed is awesome, fire rate too, but haste translates into run and gun, and well, run and gun allows you to move pretty decently while you're shooting. And with this, yeah, you see, you want to stay shooting. I mean, of course this is a true sentiment for a lot of builds, but if you are relying on applying damage over time effects on your enemies, you really want to keep this going all the time. Alright. So we got our shield back, that's a nifty thing. So now we got access to Electromage. I'll definitely pick that up. Every second shot we call down a lightning, dealing some extra damage. This is actually not that super interesting, but it ain't bad either. Because you see, we do have 12 shots in our gun. That means that's 66 damage per clip more. Not that bad. Okay, so here we go. Double shot is another skill that I find personally extremely mandatory for the build, because, you know, extra projectile, awesome. Everything that gives you minus bullet damage is totally not worth caring about, because your bullets only deal 3 damage to begin with. Your damage is the burn and nothing else. So, split fire is awesome, additional bullet behind you. Fan fire, well, it's okay, but Fusillade, that's what I really love. Double space projectiles, and it even gives you another free projectile. So, the more projectiles you have, the more people you can set on fire. The more people you can set on fire, the easier to win. You get the idea. There we go. Let's see, I'm still desperately waiting for the Splinter upgrade, and I can only say, the moment you grab Splinter, your life is a lot easier, but we don't get it right now. So, Electrobug versus Run and Gun. I totally take Run and Gun. Electrobug, it's a gimmick. You really don't need that skill too desperately. It's a little bit more damage, but it's fairly neglectable, unless you have Energized already, but we'll talk about that later. So, now Run and Gun is what I want to have, because the effect of that is so awesome, you see? Now I can kite and shoot, and that's such a big change. Because you now are no longer relying on standing semi-still while shooting, and that's really, really a huge change. Can't tell you how important haste is for this build. But since you never get to choose what comes up when, like for example, good example right now, the Splinter. If I'd had the Splinter skill already, we would have been killing a lot more, but you don't get to choose. So, Divine Wrath. I love Divine Wrath, but I gotta say, every skill of the Holy Shield is a double-edged sword. Divine Wrath gives you free lightning strikes while the Holy Shield is active. If you ever get touched, the Holy Shield pops, so it's not that interesting. I'll rather take the Electrobug, because that's free damage all the time. We also had Vitality on the table, but right now I didn't want to. Vitality is pretty appealing because you need extra HP. Like, who doesn't when you only have 2 HP? There we go. But I also feel like I love the Electrobug in the early game. But like I mentioned, it's actually not that much of an extremely useful skill to have. So, Blazing Speed is a later on thing. So here we are. I don't want Big Shot. Blazing Speed is pretty cool. Move Speed is cool. And Burn Splash Around You is pretty cool. But honestly, I'll take Vitality over that. So now we can pick up upgrades that we weren't really well able to pick up. I'll explain that later. So here we go. I really want that chest. I'll even break my shield if I have to. And here, Pyromaniac. Yes, it's such a good upgrade. So every time I set something on fire, I gain fire rate. So, oh, whoopsie. Didn't mean to run into that. So let's pick up Pyromage on top of that. And let's get ourselves out of that uncomfortable situation. As you see here now, whenever I set something on fire, this happens. So basically, my fire speed is now tremendous. We can and will utilize that later, and this is basically, you know, the other upgrades you can get out of this chest are also pretty good, but I personally love this one a lot. The other upgrades you can get are stronger burn damage, which is really, really awesome. There's nothing bad about that, and double burn duration, which is also pretty awesome. But this fire rate bonus is, I don't know, it's so sick. Let's pick up Firestarter. Out of this tree, you want everything. Firestarter is just a fireball every 4th shot. So since we got now sick shooting speed, we can now also allow ourselves to get that done into our build there. So it's boss time, 15 minutes in. Leaping Doggo. I always try to give him a full clip while he's before he's doing the jump. But with this build, you know, you do so much burn damage, you're basically just kiting around and picking this thing up. Alright, so now for the tomes. That's why I have Vitality. Lots of good tomes give you max HP -1. And if you only have 2 HP to begin with, that's a bit low. So that's why I keep picking that up. We sadly don't have the most interesting choices here. The 2 most interesting choices at these tomes are the one that boosts up the elemental damages, and the one that triples your clip size and increases your fire speed, because, you know, the more often you shoot, the more intense the burns get, the more often you freeze enemies and you reduce their max HP, and so on and so forth. Sadly, we don't get any of these, but there's 2 things that you can pick up. So Tome of Elasticity here is really awesome because, you know, bouncy bullets are also good because they just set people more often on fire. Or just outright the Tome of Speed. 50% more move speed is insane and gives you a lot of edge. But that's good for pretty much every character. I'm picking the Tome of Elasticity for the lulz because I personally love bouncy bullets. Always did. And with this whole fire shenanigans, this is all just getting better and better. Okay, so sadly, the Splinter is still letting me down. I just don't get that right now, sadly. So we're going to pick up Energize now. Energize is awesome. Whenever we put down a Lightning Strike, we get a chance to refresh our ammo. This is outright awesome because, you know, every second shot, we produce a Lightning Strike. Our little buddy Lightning Bug produces lightning strikes, and so on and so forth, and that means we get to fire even more bullets before we have to reload. And that's a big, big benefit, because, you know, due to the insane attack speed increase whenever you set something on fire, your character has, well, most of the time, absolutely insane attack speed. And therefore, seriously, you want that. Everything which replenishes your ammo is really good. Also, reload shorteners are also very, very, very desirable because, you know, you end up needing a lot of ammo. Okay, so still no Splinter inside, that's a tragedy. Divine Blessing is also extremely appealing. Reload rate plus, move speed plus, while Holy Shield's active, but no. Electromastery is one of the big things there. More lightning damage, and the AoE of lightnings is increased. That's also pretty powerful. Also keep in mind that after the 15-minute boss, you're supposed to deal some serious damage, otherwise you won't get the job done. So if you fail at this point, you either got an unlucky draft, or you focused on things that were too much utility and not enough DPS. This is something, well, since every run is a tad bit different, I cannot really give you a free handbook to decide on that, but Splinter. I can only say the earlier you get Splinter, the easier everything gets. So Rapid Fire is another one that I love to pick up because, you know, fire rate, we basically thrive on that, but this is not the one that I'm talking about. The rubber bullets are awesome, bullet bounce even more, but Siege. Shooting when standing still has a chance of not consuming your ammo. This can be quite bonkers and lead to hilarious effects. Whoa. So. There we go. As you see here, our DPS is now a little bit too low, since we didn't get the Splinter upgrade yet. Your real AoE increases extremely with the availability of that skill, because whenever you make it happen that every dying enemy produces some cascading effect, stuff gets a lot more powerful. Let's pick up Holy Wrath, because this will be more lightning per second. More lightning per second is more ammo per second, and, well, right now, I'm basically trying to survive and pick up the next big upgrade. We're pretty much strong already. We got the Frostbite, which is extremely important, and we got insane attack speeds. But there's still a couple of things lacking, and we really ought to increase on that. So at this point, by the way, I would consider magnetism as an option, because we have now a good DPS going on, and there's the Splinter upgrade. Hell yeah. So you'll notice how much changes as of now. So you see all those little wisps flying around? That's just the bounces, and no, that's just the splinters. And they... You see that difference? It's almost ridiculous how easy it is all of a sudden. Just one upgrade. Because, you know, we now have a chance of just freezing everybody just with those spawning splinters, and therefore the whole screen is a lot less dangerous by now. So we're going to pick up now magnetism. This is a good spot now. You can pick up magnetism as soon as you have the feeling that your DPS is glorious. Then you really benefit a lot from being able to absorb those droplets quicker. Because, you know, your XP does matter, and if you don't gather XP fast enough, you're also pretty much in trouble. So, here we go, let's pick up the rubber bullets. Take aim is also very, very appealing. Bullet speed is cool to have. But the cool thing about take aim is it provides penetration, and penetration is cool. Especially with those splinters and assassin. You know what? As much as I want take aim, rubber bullets, they will show up again, and we already have bounds due to the Book of Elasticity. Take aim, really, this is one of the mandatory skills because Assassin is so good. Automatically kill enemies below 20% HP. This helps you so much to finish off enemies, you know? Every measly-peasly Splinter for 1 HP damage is able to finish off enemies if they are below 20% HP. Taking off work for you. As you see here, we are already pretty much at the heavy lulls phase, and it doesn't really get worse from here. The combo of Frostbite and Splinter and all the components that we got so far is just outright hilarious. So, Intense Burn, I want that, although this is a really hard one because we have lots of upgrades that are super good. Intense Burn, more burn damage, really good. Split Fire, that additional bullet behind you is extremely good, but it also opens up Fossilate, which I love. Overload comes together because we have lightning and fire magic, and this is really good. Whenever a lightning strikes an enemy that's burning, you create an explosion, but we're going to take penetration, because that piercing stat, you know, this is just so massive, because we deal percentile max HP damage. Another pierce adds up so much more power into the entire equation that this was, in my humble opinion right now, the most powerful upgrade we were able to pick. What's now really important though is I really need to finish up the fire skill tree too, because I really want Soothing Warmth. Okay, so we can't pick up Assassin now. Quick Hands is one thing. Well, I tend to pick up Quick Hands if I don't have anything else left to pick, because Kill Clip is really cool. But beyond that, well, it's okay, but I consider it among the really rather intermediate options. So let's pick up Assassin. This makes everything a lot easier again. And, well, At this point, I really gotta be careful, because I have so much visual clutter on the screen, and we still got only 2 HP. I managed to break my holy shield somewhere, which sucks. So, yeah, Scarlet's squishiness stays her biggest weakness. That's just something that I can't emphasize enough. And, yeah, Shatter, by the way, is also another nifty thing. They explode when they die, and this just adds insult to injury. We're going to pick up Split Fire, because that's going to be an extra bullet that we churn out. But as you see here, right now we're farming. Right now we're just farming. So the next enemy type has entered the stage. These have a lot more HP, and ought to be taken a lot more seriously. So at this point, we're going to see. I want to pick up Recharge. Recharge is pretty cool. We have a higher pickup range, which becomes more and more appealing now that we have the DPS to kill those baddies. But also, you gain a chance of free ammo for picking up stuff. And racked together with the lightning chances, you have pretty nice clip sizes. And if you are able to, try to not empty your ammo, your clips too often, because you keep that insane attack speed. So let's pick up Divine Blessing, because I want that move speed. And the Holy Shield should be up pretty soon again. As you see here now, I'm just waiting for a moment. Oh, well, didn't pull it off good. So here. And now you can just use your flip accordingly while you're kiting. There we go. So there's not that much experience left, and now we're pretty much in the starved phase of this game. This is now the hardest phase, because now you gain the least experience, but face the highest pressure of enemies. Because those big guys, they die really, really slowly, and it's pretty hard to farm them, and they're going to spawn in numbers where they will overwhelm you. Even if your build is pretty decent, these guys are just bad news. And ironically, it'll get all easier after a while, but we'll have to get to that point first. So here's the next boss. Trying to pelt him down as much as I can, while dodging these bullets. Those pink blob bullets are, in my humble opinion, the most annoying thing about this fight. Now we got him. Let's rush in there while we have the chance to. And now we got even more burn damage and less bullet damage, as you see here. That's why I love the flame cannon on Scarlet, because the flame cannon almost has no bullet damage to begin with, so you don't really give away much. I like that. Let's pick up Big Shot. Like I said before, Big Shot ain't the most appealing thing, but what's really cool about Big Shot is the size increase of your bullets, and, you know, this ain't a bad thing at all. Makes the bounciness and all more powerful, but it was not the most desirable thing for me to pick up. But as you see here, we're almost farming these dudes as well. Almost, not quite, but this is, by the way, now the hottest phase of every run, where these guys swarm. It begins shortly after you've taken down this this boss. I think it will officially begin at minute 7. We're a little bit early. So the enemy density now is pretty low compared to what will come next. So at this point, if your build ain't really good, you're best off just running away and hoping that you survive until this stops. Because after this phase, and after the next boss, there's actually the small enemies spawning again, and guess what? They really have also the small HP pool that you're used to them. And, well, you can get there quite pretty decently. But my first personal favorite strategy for this minute is to just stick to one direction and pave a way that I always can move into a straight direction without getting wounded, because there's just too much stuff happening here. And keep in mind, only the upmost upfront bullets will have this 25% HP decrease thing. Everything that gets hit by the wave doesn't get frozen. You only have this extreme damage when you freeze enemies. Otherwise, your damage is actually quite low. So keep that in mind. So we survived yet another minute. At 5 minutes, we get to face another boss. That's when we face relief, actually, by the way. But as you see here, it ain't too hard. You just gotta be careful that you're not outmaneuvering yourself, and just stick to one direction. Seriously, don't try to turn around and farm these guys, unless you have found a way to churn out even more damage than I found so far, because I haven't made it yet. Whenever I tried to start farming these guys, I really just brought myself into grave danger, and that's that. So, we're almost there. At 5 minutes we will spawn the next boss, which is actually quite a joke compared to what we're facing right now. Especially the enemy density will lower at this point again, because at 5 minutes you're getting locked into a mosh pit yet again. And, there we go. Less enemies are entering this area, for whatever reason that is. I guess the game wants to amp down the pressure once the boss is on the table. I guess that's what it's about. So I lost my shield, which is kind of tragic. And with this boss you have these short faces. I hope I'm not going to kill myself now accidentally. But if so, well, I think I've proven my point. You're definitely able to finish with this build, but talking and maneuvering was just too much for me. But I don't think that does disprove the point. You can't just finish out the game with that. What I didn't manage to pull off here was picking up Soothing Warmth, which gives you a chance to heal yourself whenever you set an enemy on fire, and the upgrade of Giant, which increases your HP even more. But I've won this with this build several times, and I think I could have won if I wasn't too busy explaining at that moment, but whatever, it doesn't matter too much. Let's talk about the runes before we tune out here. So there's a lot of cool runes for elemental damage. So here you have a chance to inflict burn or freeze. This one, even though I have it equipped, it's a wrong one. You should rather pick up Alacrity, because, you know, you don't need the chance to inflict the burn or the freeze. It is sure quite handy, but I think fire rate and reload rate will matter much more for you. And bullet damage and summon damage just doesn't work too good. Here, well, it's pretty easy. Elemental Barrage is just too awesome. Whenever you freeze or burn somebody, you gain fire rate and reload rate. Awesome. This is just awesome. Skill it out. It's just that good. And the other skills don't synergize that well with an elemental build. And then we got Wild Magic. Gives you a chance of spreading the burn or the freeze when the enemy dies. I'm personally not too much of a big fan, but what's pretty cool about that is it spreads the statuses even further, and it's for free, basically. And on the last tier, I'd be totally recommending you the Ethereal. Every 50 kills, you gain a state where you don't consume any ammo, and this lasts for 2 seconds per rank. I think with this one, it's gonna be a lot more crazy than you've seen there, but you get the idea. On the shield side, I am just a big sucker for Vigilance because I love pickup range. I can't have enough pickup range. For this one, the Elemental Shield, you get an invincibility for 5 seconds every time you manage to put up 50 freezes or burns. This is insane. During this run, this saved my bacon several times. I didn't emphasize it loudly because I didn't want to talk about the runes directly, but this is just really, really good. And yeah, Blessing. I love Blessing. You get a Holy Shield for free, and you reduce the regeneration time for the Holy Shield on top of that, and the other skills are just not cutting the slack as good as this one here. A healing for every 1,500th enemy? Come on. So, in average, I kill around 1,500 enemies in one run, or something around that, 2,000 or whatever. So that'd be 2 healings per run. No thanks. And Last Stand gives you an invincibility of 5 seconds per rank when you drop to 1 HP, which sounds really good, but it activates once per game, so come on, forget about that. And with the last tier, Growth, you heal 1 HP every 5th level. and more XP per rank. I'd totally opt in for that. The other ones are only once per game and once per rank lifesavers, pretty similar to these, so yeah. I hope you found that helpful and informative. I am planning to do more of these videos, so drop me your comments down below, questions, add-ons, and other ideas. Let me know if you want to see a guide for something specific. I'd love to see what I can do for you. So, have a good one, and see you soon. Bye-bye.